What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another one of my epic 7 tier lists. And today we're going to be talking about the RGB, or the red, green, blue, fire, earth, ice 5 stars in the game and how good they are in PVE. Now, I usually update this more often, but it's been longer than I expected, so we're going to be trying to talk about most of the picks here and why they belong in what tier. And as you can see, we have 5 tiers on the left. Let me explain what these tiers are, because it can get kind of complicated, because PvE, there's so many different areas of content you could bring them in, right? So first off, we have the OP tier. These units are going to be pretty much taken into a ton of areas of content, right? These units can be put into like hunts, expeditions, like adventure, and they'll all be like top tier. So this is for the best of the best. Then we have the strong tier. These units will be a little bit weaker or a little bit less frequently used in a lot of areas of content than the OP tier units. They might be on the same power level, but they might not be as good in as many areas of content, or they might be as good in a ton of areas of content, but they're just not on the same power level, right? Either or. Next, we have the decent tier. These units are going to be mostly good replacement units, as you can see, denoted on the left here, and that is mostly because this tier is mostly going to be for units that are, decently strong, but they're not going to always be the best choice most of the time. For example, right, if you don't have Tamron on your account for some reason, a unit that could be put in here would be like a DN, for example, that can be a very good Soul Weaver in the place of Tamron until you get her. And DN is by no means a bad unit. She's still very, very good. It's just that Tamron is slightly better. So that's what we call a replacement unit. Next, we have the niche tier. These units will mostly be used for like just one area of content. For example, a good example here we can start off with is like Ball and Sazan. He is super good in Earth Expedition, but the thing is that's the only area of content he's used in, and honestly you could probably replace him out for other units, so I can't really put him in decent, right? He's just going to be a niche unit that honestly you don't even need to build a lot of the time. Next, we have the not worth building. Pretty self-explanatory. These units are mostly for PvP. Maybe they'll have one usage in like a very, weird boss in Adventure, or maybe for like one boss in Nightmare Raid. But in general, you're probably not going to really want to build them for PvE content. And now back to the tier list. So we started with Ball and Sazan. I talked about Earth Expedition. We're just going to be going down the list alphabetically. So if you guys are looking for a specific unit, feel free to skip ahead. I'm not going to really be talking about every single unit in depth because there's not really too much to talk about, but I'll give a slight explanation for why I think units are placed in the tier list. So first off, we have Abigail, not worth building, mostly a PvP unit. Next up, we have Afternoon Soak Flan. I think she's a decent replacement unit, right? She has a defense break, she has a CR push, she does a ton of damage, and of course she has AoE. The thing is, she's just not going to really do as much damage as other PvE-centric units. She's mostly centered around PvP, but honestly, if you pulled her because, she was OP and, you're new to the game, you don't have a lot of units, you can use her in PvE and she's just fine. Next, we have Albedo, not worth building for PvE, mostly a PvP unit. Next, we have Alencia. I would say that she's not worth building either. She has a defense break and an AoE strip, sure, but there's just way better units out there that have more consistent defense breaks and more consistent, strips or dispels. Amid is also another unit that's not worth building for PvP. Ermintha is the same thing, mostly for PvP. Arya is very niche. You can put her into certain like Nightmare Raid comps. She's only good for like one boss, and you can also use her in certain areas of content as like a tank damage dealer. Maybe I'll put her in decent actually, because I think she's used in multiple areas of content. But those team comps are very specific and require very good gear, but they do really make the bosses trivial. Avrunka, mostly a PvP unit, not worth building for barrier characters, right? Baiken, very niche, only good in, Banshee one-shot, and I guess Ice Expedition as well if you really wanted to. But outside of that, you're not going to really use her that much. Moving along, Basar, terrible unit in general. Bihu, very good in PvP in some situations, but overall not used that much. Bellona, she's strong. Some people might put her in the OP tier because honestly, you can make arguments for her because she has a lot for a damage dealer, right? She has a defense break, AoE damage, single target damage, a strip and stuff like that. But I'm going to keep her in the strong tier. I want to save the OP tier for like very, very powerful units. Bellona though, if you have her, she's a very good PvE unit. She's good in the current season of Rift, which is ending shortly, but she's also good in hunts like Asmonak, also good in Banshee for one shot and normal, also good in Nightmare Raid for some bosses, good in Adventure. She's just a very powerful unit. Benamaru, mostly a PvP unit. You're not going to really be using him in PvE. Brigada, same thing. Blooming Litica, same thing. Bomb Model Kana. So I kind of want to put her in OP, but I don't know if that's correct. She's either top of strong or like the bottom of OP tier. I'm gonna put her in strong though because she's kind of the same as Bologna, except that fire characters are hard to come by, so she's gets a little bit of like a bonus there. But she also does more consistent AoE damage, and even though she doesn't have a defense break, it's kind of good because some bosses don't want you to have too many debuffs on them, and she also has buffs for your team, which is very, very powerful. Breed, this is probably one of the best, if not the best character in PvE currently, because he has everything you want in a knight. He has a barrier for your team, he has defense break, he has a dispel, and he does decent damage while being very tanky, and he cycles very quickly. Probably one of the best, if not the best characters in the game for PvE right now. Definitely worth getting from your connections. He's just so strong. Next we have Biblis. So Biblis isn't really worth playing in PvE at all. Cecilia's niche, you can use her in Light Expedition, and that's pretty much it. There's probably one more area of content I'm forgetting about, but she's very good there. Celine is not really good in PvE. Cerise's niche, you can use her in Dark Expedition, but that is literally it, and there's a lot of units that can replace her. Sermia is strong. I'm going to say she's one of the best single target damage dealers in the game. Very good in Asmonak, very good in Golem. She's also one of the best one-shotters in the game, and in single target, she's like one of the best. Charles is niche, you can use him in Banshee one-shot for the first wave, that's pretty much it. Charlotte is, I would say, like a decent replacement unit for AoE, but honestly her damage just isn't there. But I'll keep her in decent. I think she's like an okay AoE damage dealer. Chloe is a niche unit used for hunt one-shots. Shu, you're just not really worth building for PvE. Sure, she has like counterattacks and stuff like that, but you know, it's just way better off. But you don't really want to rely on counterattacks in PvE, and honestly, your damage is not the best unless you proc a lot. There's a lot of RNG in her kit, which is way better suited for PvP. Command Model Laika is also not worth building. Destina is a replacement Soul Weaver. You can use her as like a Soul Weaver in the early game, but she just gets kind of, you know, power crept by a lot of other Soul Weavers, one of which being Tien. She's pretty good, right? Honestly, if not Tien, Tamron wasn't in the game, she'd be a lot higher, but Tamron just does what Tien does, but a lot better, and does a lot more. So for that, she's just a replacement unit until you get Tamron. Although if you like to speedrun stuff, if you're farming like side story, she's probably one of the best Soul Weavers because she doesn't have to rely on her idle form. Dizzy, niche, very good in Abyss, but that's pretty much it. Ada is not worth building. Edward's also really niche, very good against debuff bosses, right? Do you ever fight a debuff boss? Edward is going to be one of the best there. Elena's also a niche unit, good for Nightmare Raid and one area of content. Elgas is not really worth building. Elfelt is also niche, good in Katie's one-shot, and also some other one-shot teams, but besides that, not really used. Elvira is a PvP unit. Emilia is going to be used in, I think, like one Nightmare Raid or like one boss, but that's it. Her Valen can be used also in Banshee one-shot as well. Fairytale Tenebria, not really used. Fenris, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what he does. I kind of forgot. So I'm gonna just put him in not worth building, but if I'm wrong, please let me know. Best of Ada's PvP unit. Flan is only good in Wyvern one-shot, that's it. Frida's also for PvP. Fumir's also for PvP. Haste is good in Rift during the Earth season, which just ran before this one, so it's gonna be a while before he's good again, but he was good in that season. Not worth building for Holiday Yufine, same with Hwayoung. Same with Ilyanov, Immortal Wukong, very good in general for PvE, I'd say. I want to say strong, because he does a lot of AoE damage, single target damage, very good tank. He's good in Rift, but he's also used in like some other teams for like Raid. I'll just put him in decent, you know, pretty good unit. Issaria, OP, you know, she has a defense break, she has CD reset for her Tamron, she has a strip, very good, one of the best characters in the game. Jacko, mostly for PvP, Janua is mostly for PvP. Kain is niche for Rift. Kalric is also not worth building. Kairon is a decent AoE damage replacement unit, similar to what Charlotte fills, so we'll put him there. Ken is niche, very good for Ancient Inheritance and also for Golem, but outside of that, not really used. Kisei is not really worth it. Crow, honestly, he's like an okay replacement knight, but honestly, you're going to get rid of them very quick. Laya, mostly for PvP. Landy, one of the strongest damage dealers for PvE still. Ton of AoE damage, ton of single target. Ton of cycling for herself and her team, so very good there. Lethe is also for PvP. Lydica is also for PvP. You can use her in like some Abyss floors, but not really recommended. Lilius is a strong unit, I'm going to say, because she has a dual attack, she has cleansing on her S3. I think a lot of people underrate her, like criminally, but in a lot of bosses, she can be very good, and in Nightmare Raid, you can also use her, and she's just a good character in general that I think people sleep on. Lilbet's used for Banshee one-shot. Lua is for PvP. Ludwig is not that good in PvE or PvP. Luluka is a strong unit, I'd say. I don't think she's just a replacement or like a decent unit that you don't really want to put in a lot of teams, because she has a lot for what she does. She has like a defense break, she does AoE damage, single target damage, she can dispel because she's a mage on Isle of Violin, she has a barrier, she is very good in Wyvern, very good in Asmonak, very good in Katie's, very good in what's it called, Expedition as well. So you can use her in a lot of teams, and she's very powerful. I think she's one of the most underrated units. Luna is a good replacement unit. She's a single target beast, but after that, not really much. She's going to get replaced by like Commander Arena in your PvE teams, so we'll put her somewhere here. Melissa is mostly for PvP as well. Midnight Aurelius is also for PvP. Milim is also kind of niche. You can use her in Rift, and you can use her as like a replacement unit for single target, so we'll put her somewhere here. Mort is mostly for PvP. Nui is mostly for PvP. You can use her in Banshee one-shot, but not recommended. Noggle is also for PvP. Ocean Breeze Luke is also for PvP. Pavel's also going to be used in like Banshee one-shot teams. Pera is going to be for PvP. Politis as well. And now we're breaking into some of the limited units. We actually did some of them already, but I don't know why I just said that. But Ram here, she's a Banshee one-shot killer. That's pretty much it. Ran is also going to be a niche unit. You can use him for some Nightmare Raid bosses. Robbie's a pretty strong unit. You can take her into a lot of content. She's a very good frontline. Does a ton of damage, has a lot of sustain. One of the best beginner characters in the game, because you can just bring her to everything and she'll be very good. Ray is also a strong character because of his cleansing, kind of similar to Lilius, but does a little bit less damage, I'd say. Some people might want to put him a little bit down here. It's probably more correct, so I'm going to keep him there for now. Rem is going to be for Wyvern one-shot. Rimuru is mostly for PvP as well. Hawkeye is going to be also just not really good. Ruana, here we go, one of the best characters in the game. She just trivializes any boss with counterattacks, dual attacks, extra attacks, and stuff like that. Roy Mustang, if you have him, he's a very good damage dealer. He actually does a ton of damage for PvP and PvE, so we'll put him there. Schneel, not good for PvE at all. Seaside Bellona, definitely strong. You could take her into a lot of areas of content. The only thing is, like, her damage isn't the best compared to other like damage dealers like Lanty, so we'll put her in strong for now, but I think she's still a very powerful PvE unit, which is funny because she's been out for so long. Senya is a PvP unit. Sez is just bad. Shaltir is for PvP. Sharoon, Shuna also going to be for PvP. And Sigrid is just only good for Wyvern. Soul is decent, I'd say. I'll put him in niche. She's only for really like Golem and stuff like that. Summer Charlotte will put in niche as well. You can use her as a decent character for some Nightmare Raid bosses. Summertime Mysteria is going to be not worth it. Teiyu is also going to be not really worth it for building for PvE. And Tamrin, of course, I don't know if she's better than Brieg, or I'm going to put her, I think that Brieg's better. And the reason is because there's more knights that are, or there's more Soul Eaters closer to Tamrin's strength than there are knights closer to Brieg's strength for PvE. So we're going to do that. But honestly, you can go either way, and it's fine. But she's definitely an OP unit. Tenebria is going to be a niche unit for Earth Expedition and Golem. Tywin is not really good for PvE. Vildred is very strong, very good damage dealer. You can use him. He's very powerful. Violet is also pretty decently strong. He's a good tank, and you can use him kind of the same how you can use Ravi. But he's a little bit squishier, but he does more single target damage. Then we have Vivian here. Vivian's also a strong character. She does a ton of AoE damage. She has immunity, dispel. She has attack buff. She has single target damage as well. So just a very, very powerful PvE unit. Young Senya is going to be for PvP mostly. Same with Euphine and Yulha. Yuna is decent replacement unit. If you're lacking a good AoE damage dealer, she's actually pretty good, and she's free to play. So there's that. Sahak is for PvP. Zeno is just not really good. Igiselle is for cleaving for PvP. Ikarina is for PvP. Ining is for PvP. And Winter is for PvP. So this is pretty much the full tier list for RGB 5 stars for PvE. Honestly, they've released so many good 4 stars and 3 star units now that there's a lot of different options. You don't have to really rely on 5 stars anymore. But the ones that are good, we've listed here. And maybe I did miss some that are down here. If there's any that you see that you think should be pushed up, I'm looking right now and I think it looks pretty good. Let me know. Of course, maybe you use like an Alencia in one of your Nightmare Raid teams, but in general, I think a lot of players try to stay away from these units and don't really think it's worth building for PvE. Yeah, but keep in mind, this is not worth building in general. This is for PvE. So thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next video.